Masai Ujiri is cooking right now as the Toronto Raptors have made another trade ahead of this year's trade deadline, bringing in PJ Tucker and unfortunately, heartbreakingly, sending out Davion Mitchell, who became a fan favorite in his short time with the Toronto Raptors. But this also gives some indications in terms of what else is to come ahead of this year's trade deadline. Lots of stuff to break down, sink our teeth into with this deal. So we're going to break down why the Toronto Raptors got rid of Davion Mitchell, the reality of the salary structure, and what we can expect from this Toronto Raptors team for the rest of the trade deadline. But before we do, folks, again, if you don't want to miss a single thing that's going on with this Toronto Raptors team, and you guys are a part of the 67% that haven't hit the subscribe button just yet, I got to update that graph. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing that's going on with the Toronto Raptors. But we have a trade. We have another move gone down. A little Shams bomb. I need a specific Shams bomb animation. But basically, news has come out that the Toronto Raptors are trading Davion Mitchell to the Miami Heat for PJ Tucker and a second-round pick, as well as some cold hard cash, which you love to see. So this is a move that a lot of people might be frustrated by on the surface level because Davion Mitchell, again, his stats aren't phenomenal, but he's only 26 years old, 6 points per game, 4.6 assists, 1.9 rebounds, shooting 36% from the three-point line, and as of late has been playing very, very well for the Toronto Raptors. So people might be like, hey, why on earth are you making this move for PJ Tucker, a guy that hasn't even seen the floor over the course of the season? This dude is old, he's washed, he's a bum. Are we winning now? Like, what's going on? What's happening? I'm checking tweets just in case the Raptors made another trade, but this makes a ton of sense because the Toronto Raptors right now, in terms of salary and stuff, they were about roughly $10 million under the tax. So what that means is they could free reign take in a player and still be underneath that tax threshold. And there's a lot of teams that are over the tax right now that are trying to get off of money because if you're not familiar, the NBA has completely changed in regards to the repeater tax, how that impacts everything that's going on with this team. If you're over the tax for multiple seasons, then essentially you are unable to aggregate players in trades. There's less flexibility in terms of what you can do. And if it gets so bad, you actually get your draft picks docked. So Masai Ujiri's taking advantage of that for other teams and bringing in some extra draft capital and some draft capital that we lost yesterday in the Brandon Ingram trade. We know Masai Ujiri can cook up with whatever picks available to him. So all these picks are immensely even more valuable in Masai Ujiri's hands than any other sort of GM or president of basketball operations across the NBA. So that's a positive, even though it sucks to see Davion Mitchell end up on the way out. The Raptors also just didn't have a perfect role, perfect spot for Davion. Even though IQ has been dealing with some injuries, Jamal Shead has essentially proven to Raptors fans, proven to a lot of people, proven to the Shed heads out there that he deserves to be the backup point guard. And that's why he's been getting extra run. He's been playing phenomenal as of late. So I want to thank Davion Mitchell. Again, a very fun guy to watch, plays with a ton of energy off night. On the stream last night, people were really craving for Davion Mitchell to come back, stay with the team, but unfortunately, it was not to be. So that's the unfortunate situation going on right now for Davion Mitchell, but it does help that out. It does help that out in terms of what's going on with this whole trade scenario. So basically, we have more things to break down. So the reason this is the Raptors' use of their tax flexibility. They pick up a second-round pick and some cash and get an extra $5 million or so on the salary. They will likely buy out PJ Tucker. So that makes a ton of sense in terms of what's going on. But what does this mean as next for the Toronto Raptors? Because we essentially broke down the possibility of both Davion Mitchell as well as Chris Boucher getting traded in our video this morning. More moves coming. Of course, the Davion Mitchell move actually ended up happening. Now, Chris Boucher is the next guy that is en route, is on base to be the last sort of tradable asset for the Toronto Raptors. The other guy that could kind of get dealt is Jakob Poeltl, but that became exponentially more unlikely after the Brandon Ingram trade. So Boucher is that last piece because the Toronto Raptors right now, given the fact we acquired Brandon Ingram, they are going to be an expensive team for next season. And Brandon Ingram is going to be an expensive player. The Raptors are going to be in a position to where they have to extend him. And Chris Boucher is an expiring contract. So if he's going to come back with the Toronto Raptors, which, again, my heart of hearts, I want to see that happen, Boucher is going to have to get paid as well. He has been phenomenal for this Raptors team over the course of the season, but essentially the reason why Kelly Olynyk was aggregated in that Bruce Brown, Brandon Ingram, Kelly Olynyk trade rather than Chris Boucher, according to the reports last night, was because of the implications on the salary for next year. Broke all this down in the video I dropped either last night, this morning. I feel I haven't slept, so I'm feeling I don't know the time of day and what's going on here now at this point, but Chris Boucher is kind of the next guy that's up at bat if the Toronto Raptors are trying to get draft capital. And for the same reasons that they trade Davion Mitchell, as this sort of report indicates, it's to get some extra they have some cash to eat. They have an extra $5 million in salary or so. So they'll likely buy out PJ Tucker. Then basically that's something that could again happen with Chris Boucher if the deal is right, because there are a ton of teams that are in the same situation as the Miami Heat that we brought up this morning that make a ton of sense to work with the Toronto Raptors on one of these moves. But basketball-wise, for this team, this is one major thing. So firstly, the hopes that Immanuel Quickley is kind of back in the mix, back ready to go is, one of the thoughts on Masai Ujiri's mind right now. Because, of course, Davion Mitchell has been crucial for this team to really stay afloat and stay competent out there at this point. But really, this shows more signs to me because Davion Mitchell's a bit more reliable. Even though Shead has more upside, it's been playing a little bit better as of late. This signals to me that this team is still fully bought in on the tank, fully bought in on the rebuild, capturing that flag to close out this year. And especially if Chris Boucher is the next guy at bat, the next guy that gets dealt, that would give more signs, more indications that another trade is up on deck for the Toronto Raptors. The Nuggets, they're still interested in Chris Boucher. The New York Knicks, interested in Chris Boucher. The LA Clippers, interested in Chris Boucher. So they can make some interesting tax moves, money moves out there for the Toronto Raptors forward and still have something on the go. Now, Davion Mitchell getting traded first does make a Chris Boucher trade a bit less likely because the Raptors do have less kind of flexibility and money to work with. But anyone that's trying to be a cost cutter sees their $15 million versus Chris Boucher's $10 million, and Boucher still being a capable basketball player. The more assets, the more draft assets that Masai Ujiri can aggregate, can accumulate, especially where the core of this team is really set up to be, in place for this upcoming year. It just makes a ton of sense for this Toronto Raptors team. So again, it sucks to see Davion go. It sucks to see all that happen, but Masai Ujiri is cooking right now. I know a lot of people, there's been debates, there's been back and forths out there in terms of how good the Davion Mitchell, I haven't seen any of the Davion Mitchell trade, I just immediately recording this, but on the Brandon Ingram trade, I think this one's going to be split as well. But overall, I think Masai Ujiri has had an A+ trade deadline so far, especially if we can get Brandon Ingram to sign, 3-year, 5-year, whatever extension, for this squad, for this team, and then we'll judge accordingly how the rest of this deadline goes. If we're giving Chris Boucher away for peanuts, I'd love a first. If we get a protected first out there for Chris Boucher, oh man, this would be a masterclass by Masai Ujiri. Gotta put the cook animation. Gotta put the cook.
Someone cooked here.
Right from the jump. I haven't been using that a lot lately because Masai Ujiri's been lacking cooking, but he has been cooking this year's trade deadline. But let me know what you guys think about all this that's going on with this Raptors team. You guys best take as far. Subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. Anyways, I'm signing out. Cheers.